Naessens show is on in five, four, three, two, one.
Welcome to the Phil Naessens Show. I'm happy to have you here. We're going to talk NBA basketball for the entire program. Later on, J.A. Sherman will be here to talk Oklahoma City Thunder and to quiz me on my Kiwi lexicon. And after that, J.R. Wilco and I will be talking about the San Antonio Spurs defense, as well as Tim Duncan's snub, not only by the fans, but by the coaches as well. But up first, the Golden State Warriors, my squad, the bombs away, boys. They're in sixth place in the West, and a lot of people think they're not going to make the playoffs. Zeb Benbrook from WelcomeToLoudCity.com, that's his other team, by the way, is here to talk all about it with me. Zeb, man, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, we enjoy having you on. I'll tell you what, you're part of the team. You know, it's just the way it is. But the bombs away, boys. Now, I predicted them to be sixth in the West and be seeded sixth. Currently, that is exactly where they're at. Now, the question I have for you is, can they hold that spot?
Well, you know, it's a really hard question to answer because they're such an inconsistent team. I mean, the Golden State Warriors just lost a couple nights ago against Charlotte, got completely blown out. Couldn't do anything to stop the Charlottes. They couldn't do anything to get anything together on offense. Way too many turnovers, way too disorganized. So it's, you know, they've got a whole bunch of problems that they've got to solve if they're going to hold on to that seed. And I think it's all about covering up flaws, in my opinion, because first of all, their offense is a jump shot offense. It's not something that you can get a lot of points in the paint reliably because I got to do a bunch of post ups. So that's always up to chance. But there's other flaws that they have on their team that they really need to correct. First of all, David Lee's defense. I mean, he will go out and trap way too much. We've talked about how he kind of gives up some defense for rebounds. He stopped doing that, but now he's going way too far on screens, and he's letting bigs get into the post, and it's becoming a real problem. Klay Thompson's consistency, I've talked about that forever, but he really needs to come and bring it every night and play with confidence. Harrison Barnes needs to work on his post-up game. I mean, that's worked well for him in the past, but it hasn't been lately, so he needs to just kind of figure out what works best for him. And maybe the post-up game isn't exactly what we need him to do. I mean, he might be better if he was in an isolation-type game. And, of course, Maurice Spates trying to post up is an absolute joke. We don't need any more of that. So we've got a bunch of problems that we need to cover up, and we need to kind of develop new offensive solutions, getting the ball in different places, kind of trying different things because I think that we need to find a way to get certain points on offense. And right now we have a team that just doesn't have a way to get easy points. They don't get easy turnovers. They don't get to the line. They don't have easy twos to get. So sometimes they're going to play like the greatest team in the NBA. Sometimes they're going to play on the worst team in the NBA. I mean, if you look at their basketball reference page, you can look at how high the green is on their wins and how low the red is on their losses because they just win and lose and tie just all over the map. So it's really about getting those easy points and getting to the point where you can play as a good team consistently on different nights rather than just on one night a week.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know what? Hollingers have them rated in the offensive efficiency category, number 16. And you know what? That's about right for a team that relies on the jump shot, I think. You can't ask for too much more than what they're doing. They are averaging 99 possessions a game, and their offensive efficiency is 103.4. The defensive efficiency is 99.3. That's like third in the NBA, so that's not bad. This is a good basketball team. And one of the things that you mentioned was David Lee. Yeah, he does kind of get a little confused out there. He goes a little further out than he probably should. I think a lot of that has to do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he thinks that Bogut's going to have his back all night, and that's just not the case, especially when teams go big against that team, right?
Yeah, I mean he kind of relies on other players to do defense for him because I mean with the four position in the NBA right now, you've got a whole bunch of talented players right there. I mean, in the 90s it was the center. Right now we've got a whole bunch of talented players at the four who can score. And David Lee's going to be guarding a good player almost every single night of the week, especially when you're looking at some of the better teams in the Western Conference. I mean, San Antonio, you got Tim Duncan. Oklahoma City, you got Serge Ibaka. Portland, you've got LaMarcus Aldridge. LA Clippers have Blake Griffin. So you go up and down the line, and if they're going to play a team that's better than them, David Lee's going to have to guard a key matchup. So he really needs to focus on that individual defense and maybe kind of get the emphasis away from rebounding because the Warriors aren't winning a ton of games by out-rebounding teams. I mean, that's always been advantage, but they're not winning by rebounding. They're not winning by turnovers. So maybe it's time to focus on that defense because you said we had a high defensive rating. So if he can get in and just kind of not, you don't have to be the greatest defender in the world. You just have to make sure that these guys aren't exploiting you, aren't getting career highs. And I think that if he can do that, then the Warriors could stand a serious shot of maybe getting into the 5th seed to the 4th seed. It just really depends on, how well he develops.
Tyson Chandler had made, for the New York Knicks, made this statement, not about the Golden State Warriors, but I think it still applies. He was talking about Mike Woods and switching. And what he said was, here's how you play defense. You keep your eyes in the man's chest or in his back, and you guard him, and you don't go anywhere else. You hold your man. And I think if David Lee learns to do that, I think he might be a little better off. But the guy's having a phenomenal season. I think he was one of those players who were perhaps snubbed for the All-Star game. I thought he deserved to be there, as well as other bigs. But he didn't make the team. But it is what it is. Now, when we look at the schedule coming up, and this is one of the things that we want to try to do, is figure out where they're at. Now, they're playing in Chicago on Thursday night. We're recording this prior to the game so you can actually watch the game. But on Saturday, they have Phoenix, and then they have Philadelphia, and then on Wednesday, they have Miami, then they have the break, then they have Sacramento, Houston, Brooklyn, Detroit, Chicago, and the Knicks to round out the month. Now, what I'm thinking they need to do is perhaps beat Chicago on Thursday, beat Phoenix on Saturday, win against Philly on Monday, then knock off Sacramento, Brooklyn, Detroit, and Chicago. If they can do that, they've pretty much secured themselves a spot in the playoffs, don't you think?
Well, it's all easier said than done. I mean, you can say that all day, we can beat this team, but in the NBA, it's always one game at a time. They're not looking that far ahead, and it's just an issue, as I said before, it's consistency. I mean, you can look at these matchups again and again, but the Warriors are always a team that's going to perform differently on different nights. So it's really hard to pinpoint, who they're going to win against and who they're going to lose against. That being said, I think tonight, if the listeners want to go back and watch the highlights of the Chicago Golden State game, will be really indicative of whether they can do that because Chicago is a really tough defensive team. They're really great at taking defensive baskets away from you. They're having a good run right now under Tom Thibodeau, or at least were early in January. So I think that if the Warriors can score consistently against them, then they'll probably be able to do what you're talking about and get up to secure their position in the playoffs. But if they start losing and dropping games like that, especially like one last night against Charlotte, then they could very well find themselves out of the playoffs in the West, which would be devastating for a team that's gone all in on talent like they have over the past offseason.
And that's exactly right. But I still think that they have to beat some of these teams in February. Otherwise, they're going to have a tough road to hoe.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not easy to come out. And we have to do this as prognosticators. We have to look into the future. We have to pull out the crystal ball and try to figure all this out. But I think February is the crucial month for this basketball team because you know what? They have a very good basketball team, no doubt about it. I love the Bombs Away boys. They're exciting. But they're also a team that perhaps could crumble if they have a tough month. And I think that's probably the case. Now, the All-Star break is coming up. The trade deadline's coming up. Do you anticipate any moves that Golden State may or may not make?
Honestly, I think they're happy with the team as it is. I mean, right now, the front office has their hands full with the whole arena situation in San Francisco. Now, I'm not saying that the guys who are working on that are the same guys who are working on player development, but that's something to consider because it's on their mind and they're thinking about it. And the arena proposal probably might not happen. They might have to stay in Oracle for a little bit longer. But I don't think that they're looking at any specific trades. I mean, the trade that they got for Jordan Crawford to get that backup point guard that they really needed seemed like something that was good. And in terms of improving the team, it's all about waiting for Jermaine O'Neal and Festus Ezeli to come back from injury. Jermaine O'Neal just came back, grabbed, I think, 8 or 9 boards last night or 2 nights ago against Charlotte. So I think that that's the way that they're going to improve, is that they hope they stay healthy, focus on staying healthy. They don't have a lot of movable contracts. They got a lot of big contracts. So, we'll see, but I don't anticipate any really major moves happening, but there might be something that I don't know.
Well, David Lee's name gets tossed around every season, so you never know with him. But I like the way Jermaine O'Neal came back. Jermaine O'Neal is a stud, man. He might not be the stats grabber that he once perhaps was, but the guy's experienced. He's a veteran, and those young fellas down there look up to him and they listen to him, and it's obvious that they do. Jermaine O'Neal coming back is a big part of that. Now, when we go back and we look at what's happening with the West, you've got in the 7th seed currently is Phoenix, the 8th seed is Dallas, and Memphis is about 3 games behind Dallas right now. I would think that Denver, Minnesota, and New Orleans are pretty much wrap them up in newspaper and take the fish out. But honestly, you're looking at perhaps a 9-team race here for 8 seeds. I don't know if Dallas can hold on to what they have, and I'm not sure Phoenix can either. So it's looking up for Golden State. But again, it's going to have to be done in February. You have to force these teams who are on the bubble to play above their heads. And when they do that, you have a better chance of doing things. But I like this Golden State team, and I like the way that they have put it together. Now, what about Mark Jackson? Do you think that Mark Jackson's job is in jeopardy if this team does collapse?
It depends on the severity of the collapse, but I honestly think that he's actually pretty golden in terms of getting this team together. I mean, like I talk a lot about with Oklahoma City and Scott Brooks, Mark Jackson did a great job of getting his guys to hone in on a certain goal and getting together and getting the whole teamwork aspect into it and not having a whole lot of personality disputes. I mean, there's the whole religious thing, which, I'm neither here nor there on, but, it's a good way of getting the team together and getting them all behind a common goal with no real distractions. In terms of the X's and O's, people said that he lost a lot when he lost Mike Malone to Sacramento last year. But I read an article by Marcus Thompson, and he, a Golden State Warriors beat writer, and he was talking about how Mark Jackson actually, man, I lost my train of thought. But he was talking about how like the offense didn't really get any worse when Mike Malone left, and it's basically just the same issues that we've been facing the entire time. And I tend to agree with him. I think that Mark Jackson's job is safe. I think he does a good job with the X's and O's and keeping the team together focused under one goal. I don't see any real reason to replace him other than the fact that he runs a few questionable offensive plays, but he'll work it out. And people forget he's only like a third-year coach. He's still new to this game, so I think that with time he still has more room for improvement. And I wouldn't like to see him fired, and I do not think that he will get fired. I think it would take an absolute miracle for that to happen.
I think you're right, and I think the religion aspect, and he is a very religious guy. He's a born-again Christian. He's also a licensed minister. He doesn't hide his faith, and he shouldn't. And I don't think he pushes
absolutely, yeah.
And I don't think he pushes it on anyone either, because at the end of the day, he's a basketball coach, but he's also a man, and he has his beliefs, and leave it at that. But I don't think those things interfere with team business, nor do I think they interfere with anyone's personal business or preference. I don't think it matters to him if someone's Muslim or a Martian. He's going to treat everyone the same, and I think he plays everyone the same. I think it's a good point that you brought up. And I also think, honestly, that he's in a situation where he is a third-year coach. He's a very good motivator, and he's learning his way through. You know what? They hired him for a reason. He's brought a lot of positive vibe to the Golden State Warriors, and that's a beautiful thing. And we're looking forward to a big February from the Bombs Away boys, that's for sure. Zeb, great stuff today. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on, as always.
All right, that was Zeb Benbrook, and you can find him at welcometoloudcity.com. Coming up next, his boss, J.A. Sherman, will join me to talk about Zeb's other team, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we'll be right back. You're listening to The Phil Naessens Show.
The Phil Naessens Show will return.
And it's the reason Al Gore invented the internet.
After these brief messages.
Do you know your fantasy sports? Would you like to make money at it? DraftStreet.com and the Phil Naessens Show would like to help you get started making money playing fantasy sports today. And we'll even give you the chance to get started making money today for free. On me. That's right. All you have to do is head on over to philnaessens.com or visit the show notes for this show. Click the Draft Street image at the top of the page and start making money playing fantasy sports at draftstreet.com today.
If you like baseball, you should be checking out baseballpodcasts.net. It's one of the best places you can go on the internet to listen to independent baseball talk shows. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on our radio player that can be heard around the world. So won't you tune in and give us a listen at baseballpodcasts.net. You can also listen to the great Phil Naessens Show here. See you there at baseballpodcasts.net.
Are you looking to escape into lands full of fantasy, drama, and adventure? If you are, why not try author Kay Metter's books? Their journey begins, Journey to Freedom, The Night of the Dixie Wilds, On Top of the Rainbow, and Transcendence will get you there. Kay Metter's books are available as an ebook or in paperback, and you can find her at authorkmetter.com. That's authorkmeador.com.
Riveting talk radio.
Everybody get up. People cannot get away from the internet.
Well, I think it probably comes from porn as well. You know what I mean, that's got to be a big, strong thing.
Oh, that's gross. That's disgusting.
That freaks me out.
My cheeks are sealed.
We love talk radio.
Bend over, baby.
Do you see what I'm saying?
WeirdTalkSuperstation.com.
Better than sex.
I don't know how good sex is.
We're going to do a lot of drinking.
Talk radio. Bend over, baby. That was great.
Brewtown Sports is your source for Brewers news and notes. Join Mr. Brewtown as he keeps you up to date on all the happenings of your Milwaukee Brewers and Major League Baseball. Follow the show on Facebook and Twitter, Brewtown Sports. Listen 24/7 at brewtownsports.podomatic.com.
Hi, this is Phil Naessens from This Week in Tennis and the Phil Naessens Show. Max Sports Channels offers the best in sports talk radio, as well as great music 24 hours a day. It's my daily destination, and I hope it's yours. The sports talk begins each and every day at 3 p.m. and it ends around 9 p.m. Special programming on the weekends, and in between all that, the hottest music on the internet. That's Max Sports Channels. Make it your daily destination.
You're listening to AFR, the Armed Forces Radio Network.
And now, back to the Phil Naessens Show.
What a dope. What a maroon.
What is this? What's going on here? What are you people doing here?
Welcome back to the Phil Naessens Show. Ooh, sorry about that. Welcome back to the Phil Naessens Show, and joining me to talk about Kevin Durant, the Oklahoma City Thunder, their win over Memphis, and I guess I'm going to get quizzed on my Kiwi lingo. Please welcome from welcometoloudcity.com. J.A. Sherman is in the house. J.A., how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Phil, I'm doing really well and excited to be here. Going through a really strong stretch of Thunder basketball. So I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited to talk about our growing fan base. I bet you didn't know that we're now global, that the country of New Zealand is now full on for the Thunder experience.
Let me tell you something. Every time that we do a show, when it's about Steven Adams,
yes,
they even come to my site and they're searching through my site, and that's just an iTunes site, the WordPress one. But they come anyway because, well, that's the one that's been there the longest, and that's where all the archives are.
Yeah.
And we want to welcome the folks from New Zealand. I spent some time down there. I love it down there, and
Yeah.
I tell you what, I miss it. I wish I was young again, because I never would have left.
Yeah, I have to tell you, every day that I encounter a Kiwi, I fall more and more in love with the people group and the culture there and everything like that. And so since you have spent time down there, I want to put forth a challenge to you and see how you do. I want to give you a few Kiwi words, and I want to see if you can tell me what they mean.
All right, go ahead, shoot.
All right, the first word. This is an easy one. Okay, All Blacks. What is All Blacks?
Oh, that's the rugby team.
Yeah, that's right. That's the rugby team.
That's like the Holy Grail. That's next to fast pitch softball. That is the king down there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, second word I got for you. What is a dairy? D-A-I-R-Y, dairy.
Oh, Maron. It is a pub, I think.
Close. It's actually, from what I understand, it's a local convenience store, kind of like our 7-Eleven over the United States or something like that.
Right. Okay. You can buy beer there though, so okay.
I'm guessing you can buy beer in a lot of places in New Zealand.
Oh, I'm sure you can. Oh, you can. I mean, it's everywhere. That's like mother's milk down there. You have to have that.
Absolutely. All right. And the final word I got for you this is actually sort of a trick question. What is the difference between togs and undies?
Oh, togs are socks, and undies are, I don't know what undies are.
They're very similar.
Okay, that would be women's knickers.
Okay, you need to go back to New Zealand.
Okay.
Okay. All right, togs. Togs are a bathing suit.
All right.
So that's what you wear when you go swimming in New Zealand. Undies are like togs, except that's what you wear when you can't see the water. So if you're next to the beach and you're wearing your bathing suit, they're called togs. If you're wearing a bathing suit but you're not next to the water, they're called undies. So there you go. That's our 3 key words from the Kiwi lexicon, and I hope we get a chance to visit some more words down the road.
Well, I think we will. I'll try to brush up. I'm sorry, folks. I let you down a little bit, but I gave it my best shot. See, when he said dairy, I had to think beer right away.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, because there's nothing more important down there than drinking beer and watching the rugby, or or playing softball, or whatever else they do down there, and chase sheep, because that's another big thing too. I played ball with a couple sheep herders, so I know. Anyhow, but speaking of sheep herders, I gotta tell you, these folks in Oklahoma City, your boys are rounding up the teams like cattle.
Yeah, and not coincidentally, we got a player named Lamb on the team. So
how about that?
We definitely have the herder theme going on here. Yeah, it's been a really strong 2 weeks for the Thunder, and all of it without Russell Westbrook. He's slated to come back, so we do have good news as an estimated date for him to return to the court, and we believe it's going to be February 20th, which, if I'm not mistaken, is when the Thunder play the Heat again in Oklahoma City. But since he's been out, they have had to rely on the bench, and Kevin Durant has elevated his game to a level that nobody really thought possible. And as a result, they're rolling through the competition. I think they've won 12 of their last 13 or something like that. They won 10 in a row before they lost to the Wizards in Washington over the weekend. And then they just put 2 more wins on the board this week against the Grizzlies. and then against the Timberwolves last night.
That was huge. The game against the Memphis Grizzlies, because at that time they had won like 10 out of their last 11.
Yeah,
feeling good.
Yeah, and I think it was starting to get to be a little bit of a psychological hurdle for the Thunder, because as you all know, the Grizzlies eliminated the Thunder from the playoffs last season, and they did it in very consistent fashion where they just played dogged defense. They wore Kevin Durant down, and by the end of the game, he was exhausted. He couldn't hit the shots that he needed in order for the Thunder to win. So this week, they finally put together a better plan of attack, and of course, we do have to note that the Grizzlies were without Mike Conley, so that's going to be a huge difference. But the Thunder without Westbrook, so we call even, I would say. And so the Thunder put together a much better defensive plan. They held the Grizzlies to 77 points, and Kevin Durant was fresh in the fourth quarter, but more importantly, he was active in getting other players involved. And so we saw other guys hitting big shots, keeping the Grizzlies at arm's length. And they, especially the guys in the paint, Kendrick Perkins, Serge Ibaka did a really good job against Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol, and they were not able to mount a comeback. And so the Thunder hopefully got a little bit of a monkey off the back there.
Well, I think they might have. You know, we talked about this on Monday's show with the towers that be. Gasol and Zach Randolph needed to really step up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think that had they would have probably won again, but they didn't. And it was disappointing for them. And I think that they're in a tailspin. But one of the things that just as clear as day to me, or clear as a bell, I should say, is how much more mature the Thunder look now than they did a year ago.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that the key to playing against the Grizzlies is you have to be organized and you have to stick to your game plan. Because while they do play outstanding defense and they have a very systematic way of producing points on offense, especially between Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, they're not going to run away from anybody. And we saw that in the playoffs last year. And even if they go up by double digits in the first half, there's still going to be opportunities for other teams to come from behind. And so the Thunder just have to really value possessions more than they might against another team, you know, like the Rockets or the Phoenix or something like that. And by valuing those possessions more and limiting their turnovers, they usually can put themselves in a good position to win. And but you know, the Grizzlies, they're knocking on the 8th seed. So if things played out this way, the Thunder might end up seeing them in the first round of the playoffs. So it was good to get this kind of win. And also for Durant to play well in the fourth quarter and not get overwhelmed by the Grizzlies' aggressive defensive trapping at the top of the key.
Yep, and they handled it. I think losing or not having Mike Conley there was a big, big issue for Memphis, but Calates played pretty well. But still in all, that was just a Herculean effort on behalf of the Thunder. Because I didn't think that they would pull it off because of that Hex thing. I think the jinx was in on them, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think. But it was big. When you hold Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol to just 26 points, that's doing some work, especially when you're technically considered a small ball team. And unfortunately for Memphis, y'all got big ball and took care of business. But that wasn't all you did that week.
Yeah.
Minnesota without Kevin Love, which I don't even notice if he's there or not when Minnesota plays. But unless I hear whining, then I know for sure he's there.
Oh man, no, Kevin Love's a good guy. He's friends with Kevin Durant and everything. And
I don't mean he's a good guy.
I mean, he looked like he got pretty badly hurt the other night against the Lakers, and so hopefully he's okay. But he did not play against the Thunder. And that made a big difference. Although I have to give the Timberwolves a lot of credit. They played really well through 3 quarters. And it wasn't really until the fourth quarter that the Thunder exerted themselves, went on a little bit of a run, went up by double digits. But the Wolves are a different kind of team in that they play really fast, and they play behind Ricky Rubio's passing and his desire to fast break and create seams in the transition defense. And also they've got this one guy, JJ Barea, who always gives the Thunder trouble. I have no idea why, but he's just been a fly in their ointment for years now, even going back to when he was with Dallas. So it's good to see the Thunder right the ship just in time and make sure they don't blow a home win against the Timberwolves. So that was, I believe that is their third win of the season over the Wolves. That's the last game of the year. So I don't think we're going to be seeing the Timberwolves anymore.
And that's a good thing, because that's one less opportunity I have to watch them play, because I can't even watch Minnesota play.
Well, I think they're going in the right direction, but they have a really hard time closing close games. So hopefully they'll figure things out.
Yeah, we'll talk about that some other time, because this is the Thunder's report, not the Cry Babies of the Week report.
Oh boy,
I do not like that team, man. I can't. But JJ Barea, Maron, he asked the Miami Heat about him.
Yeah, he has a way about him. I'll give him that.
He's a pesky little devil. You walk into a gym and he's playing, you wouldn't pick him first.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he actually recorded a triple-double against the Thunder like 2 years ago. So he does have some ability to do some things.
Oh, he has a lot of ability. The problem is he's playing with those guys over there that just, that's for another day. But Oklahoma City, dude, I'm just impressed. But here's what's happening this week. They have the Knicks on Sunday. They have Orlando. That should be a squeaker. The Knicks, stick a fork in the Knicks. They are done. Mike Woodson, he came on the paper today, and he said, the season's been kind of disappointing. Kind of?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to get worse on Sunday, especially at home. And it's a matinee game, 1 o'clock. Yeah. What do you think about that game?
I think you look back to what the Thunder did to them on, Christmas Day. I think they handed the Knicks their worst home loss in Knicks history on a holiday or something like that. It was embarrassing. And Carmelo Anthony, he's had a sort of an up and down year. He's had some controversy wondering if he's going to resign there. He does have the high point total for the season. He scored 62 about a week after Kevin Durant went for 54. So there's the potential for a good scoring battle. But really, I think it's about the guard play. I think the Knicks guards have really underperformed. And so the Thunder, if they don't even have to get outstanding guard play. They just need to get consistent guard play, and things will eventually take care of themselves.
Well, I agree with you. I think they're done. And at 1 o'clock on a Sunday, for sure. But the game I'm most interested in is the Portland game coming up on Tuesday night. We're about to find out in reality if Portland's really for real. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they are the number 2 ranked offensive efficiency team in the NBA. But they give up a lot of points. They give up their defensive efficiency rating is 105.3. That's kind of toward the end of the spectrum. Even Minnesota has a better efficiency rate from defense. And they have one guy on their team that don't even play defense. But anyhow, is Portland for real?
Well, I think they've definitely come back to earth after having an outstanding first third of the season or so when they were clearly one of the top 3 teams in the league. Once you go through a couple iterations of seeing the same competition over and over again, they start to game plan against you a little bit better. And so they've taken on a few losses, but I think the anchor of that team and the reason why I think they'll be solid in the playoffs is that they've got a 2-man game between LaMarcus Aldridge and Damian Lillard. And as long as those 2 guys maintain a good concentration as to producing points, I think the perimeter shooting will come and go, but that has to be your anchor. That's what we saw with Dallas, with Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Kidd and Jason Terry back in the day. That's what we've seen with the Celtics and the Lakers. To have the 2-man game where you can really rely on those guys to be the focal point of your offense, that goes a long way in the playoffs. Defensively, though, I really don't know what to make of them because I feel like they should be better than they are. Now, maybe they're never going to be a top 5 defense, but I don't think they should be as low as they are, and that could be a byproduct of the fast offense they want to play. I'm not really sure. I'll have to take another look at them when the Thunder play them again. But I feel like in order to compete in the playoffs consistently, you got to be in the top third of the league. You got to be around top 10 or so defensively in order to be able to take away other teams' preferred modes of offense. So I think that's the big stumbling block for them right now.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. Great stuff today, J.A. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, that was J.A. Sherman. You can find him at welcometoloudcity.com. Coming up next, J.R. Wilco and I will talk San Antonio Spurs hoops, and we'll be right back. You're listening to The Phil Naessens Show.
The Phil Naessens Show will return.
And it's the reason Al Gore invented the internet.
After these brief messages.
Hi, this is Phil Naessens from This Week in Tennis and The Phil Naessens Show. Max Sports Channels offers the best in sports talk radio, as well as great music 24 hours a day. It's my daily destination, and I hope it's yours. The sports talk begins each and every day at 3 p.m. and ends around 9 p.m. Special programming on the weekends, and in between all that, the hottest music on the internet. That's Max Sports Channels. Make it your daily destination.
Hi, this is Gary Mack of Mets Musings, and I hope you'll join me each and every week as I recap all of the comings and goings on in New York Mets baseball. I'll have guests on from all across Mets Nation giving their insights and analysis on the New York Mets. And you can follow me on Twitter at MetsMusings1, as well as on Facebook. The group name is Mets Musings. So tune in weekly to the Mets Musings, available at MetsMusings.com, Stitcher.com, iTunes.com, iHeartRadio, and of course, BaseballTalkRadio.com, the home of great baseball talk shows.
Riveting talk radio.
People cannot get away from the internet.
Well, I think it probably comes from porn as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a big, strong thing.
Oh, that's gross. That's disgusting.
That freaks me out.
My cheeks are sealed. We love talk radio.
Bend over, baby.
Do you see what I'm saying?
WeirdTalkSuperstation.com.
Better than sex.
I don't know how good sex is.
We're going to do a lot of drinking.
Jog radio. Bend over, baby. That was great.
If you are a fan of historical fiction, then the Britain and the Dane novels are right up your alley. Surrounding 9th century Anglo-Saxon history are 5 amazing novels that will leave you breathless. To purchase any or all of the Britain and the Dane historical fiction novels, please visit MarianneBernal.com. That's www.mariannebernal.com.
Do you know your fantasy sports? Would you like to make money at it? DraftStreet.com and the Phil Naessens Show would like to help you get started making money playing fantasy sports today. And we'll even give you the chance to get started making money today for free. On me. That's right. All you have to do is head on over to PhilNaessens.com or visit the show notes for this show. Click the Draft Street image at the top of the page and start making money playing fantasy sports at DraftStreet.com today.
You're listening to AFR, the Armed Forces Radio Network.
And now, back to the Phil Naessens Show.
Now here it is, your moment of zen.
Welcome back to the Phil Naessens Show and wrapping up this amazing NBA basketball coverage to talk San Antonio Spurs defense and Tim Duncan being snubbed. Do you think he's really ticked off about it? We'll find out. From PoundingTheRock.com, please welcome J.R. Wilco to the show. J.R., how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Doing fantastic, Sarah. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. I am wrapping up a mighty long day, as I know you are. What's going on with the defense? It looked like it should have been shored up, but has it been shored up with well, I guess you'd say the return of Danny Green and Thiago Splitter?
Absolutely. The team, everybody knows defense wins championships, and the defense was top 5, if not top 3, through most of this year. And then the Spurs had the horrible January where 4 of their top 8 guys were hurt, and now they're getting them back. And last 3 nights, they just lost to the Nets, but the 2 previous games they came back from 14 and 17 points against the Wizards and the Pelicans to win those games, and it was huge fourth quarters that they did it with. And it wasn't just offense. They locked down on defense to really give those teams fits, and just couldn't get scores. And they don't beat the Wizards last night without Danny Green. And it wasn't just his clutch threes at the end of the game that did it. It was the 40 minutes he gave, just really playing tough defense. And it's exciting to get to see this again, because even though they didn't have their best players, they weren't running with their horses through January because of all the injuries. It gets weird to see. I mean, you kind of get accustomed to seeing, I should say, the team playing and not being able to get stops, and that's just not the way that the Spurs played last year. It's not the way they played the first half of this year. And it's really exciting to see Splitter out there just harassing people. He's even getting some blocks, which he's not really all that good at. He's just good at playing great positional defense and just frustrating guys around the rim. And for Danny Green to come back in his second game from missing essentially an entire month of play and playing 40 minutes, that's just a testament to the Spurs training staff to be able to keep him in condition, even though he's nursing that broken finger that he had. So I'm really excited about the rest of the season, because Kawhi Leonard's only going to be maybe a week and a half now before he'll be back. And then you just leave Manu Ginobili in his strained hamstring. Just leave him. I don't care if he misses another 4 weeks or 5 weeks from now. I want him to come back healthy and have no issues at all. And I'm not even going to think about Tony Parker's lower back stiffness, which he left halfway through the game against the Wizards last night. I don't even want to think about that. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be anything. He's just going to take a little rest. But the great thing about it is that it's another rodeo road trip, and the Spurs are seemingly rounding into defensive shape.
Yeah, they seem to, but the last 2 games, though, they have given up more than 100 points. They don't do that very often. Hollinger rates them 99.9. So that's pretty good for defensive efficiency. There's only a couple of teams in the league better than that: Golden State, Oklahoma City, and Indiana. So they're right where they want to be. But the last couple of games, maybe it's just they haven't cohesed again. They haven't gelled yet because they haven't played together in, a month, some of these guys?
Yeah, they haven't played. Splitter's had 4 games back now. Green has had 3 games back. But they still don't have their full team. You're not going to see the real Spurs defense until Kawhi is back and until Manu's back as well. So just the fact that they're able to go in on these spurts where they lock teams down, that's encouraging, because there wasn't anything like that through the end of the month of January, when all 4 of those guys were out. And then when they played the Nets tonight, Boris Diaw had food poisoning. Tim Duncan played 40 minutes last night in the double overtime game, so Pop held him out of the game. And again, Manu's still with the hamstring, Kawhi still with the hand, and then Tony Parker with the strained lower back. So you're talking about the big three and Kawhi and Boris Diaw. Talking about 5 of the Spurs' best 8 players unavailable, and they were hanging with the Nets, and the Nets have been playing really good ball recently. They were hanging with the Nets all the way through the late into the third, early into the fourth quarter, and then before they wound up losing by 14 points. But that just shows you how game these guys are and how hungry the guys come off the bench and ready to play in that system, in the Spurs system that Pop has going.
Boo, Greg Popovich.
That's a fantasy boo. That's not a real boo. That's
let me finish. He sits Duncan tonight. Now I've got this guy who's playing phenomenal. I mean, Tim Duncan is playing phenomenal, like he did 5 years ago when I won my second championship, third championship, whatever. I thought he was 25 again. He just killing everybody every night, and then he sits him, and it's a Thursday night. There's 2 basketball games. And I've got 2 guys playing. My opponent has nobody playing. And so I got stuck. I lose 20 points. Thank you, Greg Popovich. Boo. Anyhow, Tim Duncan. I have to talk about Tim Duncan tonight.
Oh, well, Tim Duncan is playing phenomenally well. He's last night against the Wizards, he had 31, 11, and 5. So 31 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. He became only the 3rd person in the history of the NBA to, after turning 37-year-olds, have at least 30, 10, and 5, and that's Michael Jordan and Karl Malone. So not bad company that he's in there. He's just it's just amazing to watch him play, because it's such a pleasure to watch him work on the side, just everywhere he goes, whether it's in the pick and roll, whether it's down on the block, whether it's out on the wing with the bank shots. He's so efficient in his movements. He's so incredibly heady, and you never know when he's gonna pull off some spin move that you haven't seen for 4 or 5 years, or if he's gonna flip a little pass that you're completely not expecting to somebody wide open cutting to the basket for a wide open layup. I mean, he's thinking so many moves ahead of just about everybody else, and even though he gets blocked more often than he used to at the rim, and even though plays that he used to finish by jumping like crazy and slamming, it's still, he's still finding a way to get those points scored, and it's just incredible. He looks just as good as he did in so many ways 5 and 6 years ago.
He sure has. Boo, Greg Popovich. Sorry, man, but this is a big league. It is a money league, and I'm winning by a long way, but I want to win every week, because you never know. Because I've had some bad luck with my teams, but I want to talk about Tim Duncan with the rest of the time when we have tonight, because something, we don't talk enough about this kid, and he's a fantastic athlete, fantastic human being. But one thing that we talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, Amar from SLC Dunk and I did, when we were talking about some of the snubs, and we brought up Tim Duncan, and Amar said, well, maybe they thought he didn't want to play, or it was understood that he wasn't that interested in playing. But then the New York Times came out with, and this is not an endorsement of the New York Times. I usually don't look at this unless I'm trying to wrap fish. But anyway, there's an interview with the general manager, R.C. Buford, is it?
Yeah, he actually did an interview with the New York Times. It was over the phone, but they were asking him about Duncan and about the All-Star game. It was a great article. I did a real quick post linking out to it on Pounding the Rock, and it reads like a fan post. Honestly, it reads like something that you'd normally read on Pounding the Rock, which is unusual for the New York Times. Just how glowingly they spoke of him, and how really they talked about he was getting snubbed. He's like, Kobe Bryant doesn't even play, 11 games, and he's voted in like crazy, and Tim Duncan is schooling fools, carrying the Spurs through so many of these injuries, and he doesn't even. Not only don't the fans put him in, the coaches don't even put him in, and he's started to talk about what Duncan deserves for having played that many years, and I mean, the idea of deserving something is an interesting one. I don't think there's really any such thing, but it's a compelling argument that he makes emotionally, if not technically, and it's just a really good article. One of my favorite parts of it is what he says. Doesn't playing and behaving selflessly and professionally for 17 years promote the league in a way that cannot be quantified in numbers like jersey sales? Doesn't seamlessly executing scores of high screen and rolls, setting the example and making the Spurs a basketball purist dream, speak to those who might otherwise be inclined to dismiss the NBA as a rapacious dunk and pony show? Yeah, just great lines, just excellent stuff. So, man, it was just really good arguments there. So excellent article. And I don't know if he's snubbed. I don't know if he's upset about it, but a great case for him being included.
And what's even better is I Googled one of the paragraphs just to make sure that they didn't plagiarize anything over there. But needless to say, it was a good article. But I'm curious as to what you think about this. I don't think that Tim Duncan really cares personally what people think, but this wasn't a snub just by the fans, and the fans snubbed him before. It is what it is. They go for the popular guy who sells the jerseys and who does all the dunks on ESPN. But do you think it's the slight by the coaches and not choosing him, or maybe we don't know? Maybe they called him and said, "Hey, do you want to play?" And he said, "No, I don't know." Do you think that bothers him more than the fans?
Well, I don't think that we'll ever know unless he does a tell-all, years and years from now after he's been out of the league and, somebody convinces him to let them write a book about him and do an inside thing on that, because that stoic demeanor hides so much. And that's what struck such a huge chord when he's, slapped the floor with both hands at the very end of Game 7 when he missed that shot and that follow-up against the Heat in the finals. To see that kind of emotion from him would just blew people away, because you just never expect to see that from Tim Duncan. And the fact that he's able to channel all of those emotions, because he has them, you see him from time to time, but he keeps them under wraps. But just because you don't see him doesn't mean he doesn't have them. And I think it's near impossible to guess what he really feels. Regardless of what he feels, he's as amazing as an athlete. Even more so, he's amazing at being able to channel his feelings into productivity, to channel what happens and take that raw material of difficulties and stress and anger and frustration and push that into seriously excellent effort on the basketball court. So regardless of how he feels about it, regardless of how upset he is, there's the one thing that you can know for sure is that he's going to use it to make himself a better basketball player. So at this point, it's kind of moot, because one way or another he can't change it. The only thing he can do is play the best he can.
Yep, I agree with you completely. You know what? If Kevin Love is a starter, then I wouldn't want to play on that team either. Forget about it. Anyhow, great stuff today. JR, thank you so much for being on the show with me.
You bet. I always enjoy it and look forward to talking to you next week. All
right, that was JR Wilco, and you can find him at poundingtherock.com. And that's going to wrap it up for today's Phil Naessens show. I want to thank all my guests for talking a little hoops with me to end the week. On Monday, we'll be talking some more hoops. Until then, y'all take care of yourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you. My father thanks you. My sister thanks you, and I thank you.
You just listened to a pre-recorded edition of the Phil Naessens Show. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Flash.